Greetings from North Dakota. I am no longer sitting in Mark's office, but I'm back in my own office. Back to the grind, back to the grindstone, just in time for Catholic Schools Week. And speaking of Catholic schools, here's Chad.
Hey there.
How you doing, Chad?
Great.
Uh,
I just heading home from my weekly meeting. And,
yeah, yeah.
it's really good.
Now, a couple weeks ago, you were on and you were talking about having an interesting conversation with your pastor about Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
Did you ever have that conversation with him?
Yeah, we got to meet. We talked a little bit, and he handed me a book called "The Wounded Warrior," I think it's what, or "Wounded Healer," is what it is. So I have to just get reading on that. Uh, but he's been really busy. He had a baptism today, and there was some kids singing, and Uh, I think we're gonna. I called him this evening on my way to the meeting, and we're gonna talk tomorrow. So that'll be good.
Cool. Cool. Is that Henry Nowen, the wounded healer?
I think so. I
He's a
think
pretty
so.
popular writer. Uh, so, yeah.
We were talking about service, and being in service to others, and I was explaining to him what my convictions and commitments in AA are, and feeling that uh, God God had got me sober so that I might be able to be useful to others, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And
And I
he's like,
think
"Oh,
there's
I think you'll like
something,
this book."
yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to that. I feel like every time I make a good confession, I become a better confessor. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, I went and did that again.
Yeah.
And I got to go confess that. And that's what the people coming into me, they're just like me. They might have a few different sorts of temptations. But yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's just like what from the letter to the Hebrews that he's tempted in every way like we are. Jesus is tempted in every way like we are, but without sin, so that he can become a compassionate intercessor. That's the Father Eric paraphrased version of that passage.
Oh yeah. No, I, I really believe in this. This idea of like, there's this phrase in AA that we have where it's like uh, we're more brothers in our defects than we are in our virtues,
Hmm.
and that's the same kind of thing. Like, you know, I think we were talking with some of these guys about empathy, and uh, like Vanderklay talked about on his Q&A on Friday about you know, hopping in the hole and saying, "Oh, I've been in this hole. I, like I know I know a way out. You want to come with me?" And
Hmm.
there's a real strong identification that happens. I know, like, when my sponsor shares his defects with me, like you're saying, there's a almost a soothing quality to that, of knowing, like, oh, I'm not like an alien, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, he's a person. He's not a superhero, you know.
Yeah, yeah, for real. It's not so unattainable as it could be.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm. By the way, I need to get off my hiney and get to writing you. I've been procrastinating doing that, but I really want to, before I start roboting for a moment, I really want you to know how much I appreciate, what you and a lot of um, you and Paul and, people who have a lot of experience with being of service to others and sharing your faith and walking with people, how much it means to me. It means so much because I can make jokes all day long and be goofy and stuff, but life is real, man. And it's tough, and I think it got more difficult in a strange way since being captured by Christ. It's gotten a lot more difficult in some ways, a lot more freeing, but just a lot more pressure in a different way than I've ever dealt with. So it's good to have people I can track with, talk with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what our Lord does with us. You know, it's like, well done, good and faithful servant. Here's some more work to do.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you know, I really think that if I could just get away with praying and that made me feel better, I don't think I'd ever lift a finger to do anything else. You know, I don't know. I get kind of confused on all the language people have and the arguments that they have about, you know, what is faith and where does it come from. It's like, can't you just look at your own experience in some sense? Like, of course, faith comes from Him, God alone. But like, faith without works is dead. That's a real. I was reading some James today. That's real.
Yeah, James doesn't mess around. He just tells you exactly how it is, which is good. We need to hear that every once in a while.
Yeah, man. It's a great book. So,
It is.
can you tell me about some of these other wisdom books? Like, you have a book of wisdom in your Bible, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah. So you're asking about like the Book of Sirach and the Wisdom of Solomon?
Uh, a book of
Oh, he's roboting. Well, I'm just going to start monologuing until Chad comes back on then. So we have a couple pieces of wisdom literature in the Catholic
wisdom that
Bible.
I'm unaware of. That
One of them is the Book of Sirach, and the other one is the Book of the Wisdom of Solomon. The Wisdom of Solomon is a real interesting one. It was probably composed in Greek, and it's got some of the clearest Old Testament teachings about the immortality of the soul and the resurrection of the dead and eternal life and all that sort of stuff, which isn't actually that major of an Old Testament theme. But if you've got the Catholic Bible, and I believe the Orthodox have that one too, they've got a lot of that. And the Book of Ben Sirach is an awful lot similar to the Book of Proverbs, but there's like 60 chapters to it. So that one was probably originally written in Hebrew, but we only have a Greek translation of it available. I'm not sure how much of that you actually heard, Chad.
well, if you can hear me, I hear everything. I just robot. I get to receive all of it. I just don't get to talk.
Oh, that's good to know, actually. That's good to know.
Yeah. So no, I'm interested in that. I like proverb like books. Yeah, wisdom literature. I'm interested in that. Oh man, I should just get one of those books. I need to read the books I have. So
yeah, yeah, that's a problem. I haven't finished Augustine's Confessions yet, and I've got one that I know I should read because I told Sam Adams I would read it, and I want to read it too. But it's on the speaking in tongues in the early church.
oh,
could be really interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
so you read Reformations, eh?
I did. That was one that really, like Paul, BVK brought it up in his videos a fair bit while he was reading it, and it kind of sparked my curiosity. And yeah, I had never gotten that historical era in that much detail, and that was pretty helpful actually to be
Yeah.
able to get some of that. Hmm.
Well, I read it because of your comment was referring to Reformations, and I know I heard Paul talk about it, but I'm like, well, Eric read it, I should just get it. And I'm like, oh, it's like 35 hours on Audible. Okay, good. I like long ones,
Okay.
and I'm not all the way through it yet. Well, I like the longer ones because it's more kind of bang for your buck.
Yeah.
If you're at work, and I can just listen longer, so I'm not just wasting credits,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so I'm not all the way through it. I'm probably not even a quarter of the way through it, but it is eye opening, man. And like listening to Luther, the bits in there about Luther, it's like, man, he was so neurotic, dude. How could he have not? Like, how could he have not played out the way he did? I mean, it's
With him not being convinced that he was actually forgiven of any of his sins, like
yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
so relatable. It's very relatable. Like I was really relating to him in that sense, like
Hmm.
and just but like knowing like driving yourself insane with with all this stuff, and then like years and years of that, and then probably entering seminary when you probably shouldn't have, maybe, I don't know. And it was just I felt a different kind of compassion for him, because before I just thought, oh, he's just a dude in history. And like sometimes you kind of they're not kind of like don't seem as human if
Hmm.
you don't
Hmm.
really read about them. They're just kind of characters. And so like reading about him, I was like, oh man, it must have sucked to be Luther for a while. But so he was interesting. All of the weirdness is all very interesting to me too. Like,
Yeah, some serious medieval weirdness going on there.
yeah, we should really learn from that.
Yeah.
I think today's church, uh, all of us could probably learn something very valuable from just a once through in that book.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
it
I think
was like, hello, Valerie.
Hi.
We're talking about a book that I read and Chad is listening to on Audible. It's about the Protestant Reformation and the Catholic Reformation at the same time. So I don't know. Have you ever read that one
I
by
have
chance?
not. I
Okay.
am woefully ignorant, but I am like very open to learning about stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I I did read some Teresa of Avila
Okay.
um, a long time ago, quite a few years, so I can remember some of it. It was about the different mansion rooms and stuff,
Hmm.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
the Interior Castle. That's a
yeah,
classic.
yeah. I read that on one of the apps I have, and I was like, I kinda understand what she's talking about, and then it got long-winded, and I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, the farther you get into that book, the more spiritual and mystical it becomes, the less
Yeah,
relatable it is.
yeah.
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 So,
And the Reformation's pretty quick pace book. I mean, that thing is it's moving at a pretty good clip. I mean, it's not. What I liked about it when he said that it was like it's not super in depth, but it's just in depth enough, I think, to where it gets some of the point across. But it's really fast.
hmm,
See, what was interesting to me about that book is that there was a lot of stuff I learned about the way Catholicism was being practiced in the late Middle Ages that were just like, holy mackerel, that's different. And it was hard for me to like relate to what they were dealing with. And for a while, it was kind of freaking me out. And then I got to enough points where it's like, yeah, that's the faith that I'm practicing right now. especially the stuff about the sacraments and how they play the role they played in the life of the church. And then I was like, oh, okay, like that's something that we'd be kind of the same way on. Hello, Richard.
Or Father or Chad.
Hey, Richard.
Heidi ho.
Yeah, I'm actually really intrigued about how, like, where do the sacraments come from? Like, where does this idea sprout out of? And I'm just really fascinated by it because, I like tradition, and I just wonder, like, how tightly to hold to it, and what's like, how much is my soul in peril if I don't, and where, you know what I mean? I think those are good questions that people who are in positions of leadership could help a fellow with.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the questions you got to answer is how many of those sacraments are there? The
Right.
Catholic answer being there's 7. The Orthodox answer saying, I don't know what they'd say. I don't know. I don't think they'd say 7, though. I think they'd say we haven't bothered counting.
Right.
And then Luther and Calvin were pretty firm on just 2 of them, baptism and the Eucharist. So yeah. And so anyway, yeah. Chad, have you ever seen the movie Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension?
I have.
Parts of it with John Lithgow.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an amazing movie. And it's so wacky and ridiculous that you can miss pretty easily how amazing it is. But it all comes back to that line right at the very beginning where they're doing the brain surgery together. And Buckaroo Banzai is like, now don't pull on that. You don't know what it's connected to. And every time certain questions get answered, that's what I think immediately. It's like, oh, don't pull on that. You don't know what that's connected to.
Yeah. That's one of those things. I'm kind of. It's a curse and a blessing, I guess, to have the questions. Oh, I'm going to start roboting. Well, I'll see you guys. Thank you. Much love to you.
Okay.
Take care, Chad.
Bye, Chad. Much love.
Yeah, these questions all get more complicated the more you learn about them. Well, that makes life fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Valerie, this
Yes.
is the first time that you've been on one of my little live streams here.
Yeah. I
Anything
saw it
you'd
in
like
the-
to share with the whole internet about yourself?
Hi, I'm a writer. I respect Brother Mike, Big Mac, and let's see here. I saw the invitation to the chat in Discord. I'm like, sure, I'll join, and then I was joined right away, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't quite ready. I'm working on a. Well, if I get to promote something, I'm working on a anthology with a group with my writers group over at the writers server, and the theme is on community, which is important to Pastor Paul and everybody here in the Bridges of Meaning community. And so if anybody wants to help support it, if you're part of the Bridges of Meaning community, feel free to go to my website, valerieflynn.com, VALERIE, F as in Frank, LYNN.com. Click on community and you'll learn all about it and support it if you'd like to, or just cheer us on. That would be great. So, yeah.
Is it Rabbit Trails? Is that?
Yep, that's it.
All right, I'll drop the link into the chat here.
Thank you.
So-
I can't do I can do the private chat, but not the comments. I probably am supposed to sign up or something, and I've never done
Or
that.
you have to be an admin to do it, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I found it in the chat. So your book project, it's about community. What else can you tell us about it?
We actually it's really a homegrown community endeavor. It's we're going to publish it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a bunch of others.
Mhm.
And we would like to be able to print actual hard copies
Mhm.
and give it out to the different contributors. We have a number of writers so far, but we closed writing submissions. But if somebody really wants to write for us, just contact us. We'll let you know. And if it's a good topic, talk to Jordan about it. His email's on my website. Um, and but we are very open to. Um, we need artists or an artist for the book cover. That would be a huge help. If other artists would like to contribute art to be included in the book, we're open to that. We're not sure how to technically do that, but if somebody with graphic arts want to give it a hand, that would be fantastic. Um, we have a number of beta readers, but if there's a talented editor out there who like this sounds like a really cool project, I want to be a part of it. Um, we have space for you as well. If people can't help us with that way, if people want to help us with marketing and promotion, or maybe even do honest reviews of the book once we get review copies ready, that would be a huge help to put reviews on like Amazon and Goodreads and the different platforms. That would be cool. Um, if people know people who have done books about community that we should talk to see if they might give us a blurb for the book, um, feel free to send that information on our way. That would be awesome. Um, we created this project specifically to galvanize the writing server as well as do something together as the Bridges of Meaning community for our little corner of the internet. But we
Mhm.
wanted to make it accessible to anybody in the general public who are not aware of Peterson or anything like that, so that it would be a good gift.
Mhm.
I have a group of friends in real life call themselves the Geek Family Night, which we meet on Friday nights and we're all geeks.
Mhm.
And it's very community oriented. So community is a very important thing to them as well. So I'm sure
Mhm.
there's like lots of people out there who, community is important. Sometimes there's bad community. Sometimes there's like one of the pieces I'm writing that I'm struggling with is, the challenges disabled people have in joining communities.
Mhm.
I have disabilities. My family has disabilities and health issues, and you just can't just go out and go meet people. It's not, because you have challenges. And so I'm writing a piece trying to deal with that. So if somebody has an interesting perspective, we want to hear it. We're trying to have like the working title for it is kaleidoscope because it's like a multitude of different perspectives. But I can kind of go on and off on this for like 3 hours. I don't want to monopolize the thing. That was not my
Yeah.
intention.
Well,
But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chat about it.
well, sure, sure. This is an open mic. I don't want to talk into the microphone for 2 hours. That would be boring even to me. I do have a few questions for you, though.
Sure.
Who that, let's say, people who might have found this YouTube live stream, who would they know who are contributing authors to this? So who are some of the people contributing to your anthology?
Sorry about that. I bumped my little internet antenna and it put me offline. I apologize about that.
Oh, okay,
So
that's fine.
to answer your question, there's a couple people I know. Um, we Josh is at the writing server. He's the one who created the writers group on the
Hmm.
writers server. Um, and then Jordan is our third member, so there's three of us in the writers group. So if anybody wants to join the writers group, you're more than welcome to join us. We meet
Hmm.
every second Thursday of the month, and usually the meeting time is in the writers group channel in the writers server. Um, but I have important person, Stephanie from England, who helped coordinate a lot of the England tour stuff. And she has a Substack uh, that kind of follows and shares what's going on in the Bridges Immunity community. She has volunteered to kind of keep everybody updated on what's going on. So her little Substack is called This Little Cafe, kind of after This Little Corner.
Mhm.
And I have a link on the website so people can join um, her Substack, and she promised to let people know when we have new stuff going on, news or updates or milestones that we're making as we work through the process of the book. We're scheduled to publish this coming December, so it might move forward or back a little bit depending on how we do everything, because we're just doing it all ourselves. Um, but let's see who else. I don't know everybody who's involved.
Okay.
I don't think. Oh, I did talk to Paul on Friday in Q&A, just kind of letting him know about the conspiracy and what we were up to. Because what we're going to do with the book is we want all the funds, the sales proceeds, to go to his ministry to support his church.
Okay.
And so, because he's kind of the one who birthed all of us getting together in the beginning, anyhow.
Mhm.
But so it's basically not for profit. It's just
Yeah.
basically to help support him and kind of get the word out about the community. I did ask if maybe John Von Donk or Esther O'Reilly Bethel might be able and willing to write a piece on estuary to kind of get the word out about that to uh, just regular people outside of our little corner of the internet and outside of the wind, understanding who Peterson is,
Mhm. Mhm.
to hopefully get that going more. That would
Mhm.
be kind of cool. So they may come back and say they might be interested. I sent an email to Sherry. I'm blanking on her last name. She's the artist who talked to Paul like last year, or the year before, or something like that. And
Mhm.
she's doing an art community. So I didn't know if it was just all graphic artists or, painters and stuff, or if they had a mix of different, writers and filmmakers or something like that. So I've been
Okay.
trying to get the word out and see who gravitates towards
Mhm.
getting involved. And
Now, a lot of the stuff that you're doing on the Bridges of Meaning Writers Club server, right?
yep, correct. And we
So
do try.
I'm just gonna throw this up here on the screen here for those. You've got to make it to the Bridges of Meaning Discord server first, and if anybody's having trouble, just throw out an SOS into the chat, and I could see that we've got at least one mod in the chat right now. They'd probably be able to hook you up, and you would come up to welcome start here and join the server Bridges of Meaning Writers Club. You just join it by clicking on that button right there. So that's how, if you're interested in contributing to this project, you would be able to get in contact with Valerie and the rest of the family there.
Yeah, yeah. Jordan's the head guy in charge of most of stuff. I volunteered to help with public relations and
Ah,
marketing
yes.
because I have
Yes,
a media
yes.
background, and
Okay.
I used to do a radio show with my dad for 9 years, so I kind of
Okay.
understand what media people need, press
Yeah. Well,
releases,
you
and all that
sounded
stuff.
like you had your pitch deck all ready to go when you hopped in here, which is great. Which is great. I had no idea any of this was going on, so
Oh, cool.
it's nice that we can get the word out here. And
Let me know.
you say next December, I'll certainly see if I can pick up a copy. If it's going to be on
Cool.
Amazon, that means I can get it on my Kindle, right?
Yes, that's right. It'll
All
be
right.
it will be at least an ebook.
Mm-hmm.
Our aspirations is to also have print on demand
Mm-hmm.
available, and we want to try to. So if people are like they're not creative and they're not sure what to do, but they want to support us being able to pay for like an artist to do the book cover and an editor or marketing costs, and maybe help us cover getting books for the contributors. They can also donate at the GoFundMe link on the webpage, so that's available too. But one other side project that actually got birthed that I haven't really told a lot of people about it. I have a couple gals who are working with me to try to figure out how to do this,
Mhm.
but I wanted to have some kind of directory or list or something available for the Bridget the Meaning people, people like yourself, Father Big Mac, who
Mhm.
have like a YouTube channel and are content creators and are reaching out and doing stuff,
Mhm.
and try to at least let people be able to find you a little bit easier,
Mhm.
because I know
Mhm.
there's the share your content stuff in, um, you know, promos and friends and stuff like that. But I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what if you know,
So
are not, not able to always put that stuff in there? It'd be kind of nice for some way for us to find each other, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I
that's
think
in,
that
I
was actually the original idea behind Chad's channel. So
yeah, that was really
yeah.
cool.
yeah,
So
I forget what the website's called. I think it was called something like This Little Corner, but it was I have no idea who put it together, but it was a website that somehow all of the different TLC channels were plugged into it, and you could like just search for terms, and it would pull. Yeah, that thing.
So
Um,
we could come up. We
but
could say something like Father Eric. See what that pulls up.
yeah, and it gives
Ah,
you timestamps. You can
that's
filter.
me. That's me on Jacob's channel. It's me on Jacob's channel. That's me on Jacob's channel. Me. Yeah.
Is your channel on there?
I don't know
Father?
if I'm. I don't know if I'm indexed. I think who was it? Who was it that does this one?
Who runs it?
I can't remember who runs this, but I don't think my channel's on here. I don't produce much besides these live streams, so
Right.
you know. Uh, yeah.
so it's called thislittlecorner.com, or
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
okay, I'm gonna bookmark that. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually come in handy quite a bit. I've found old videos that way. So.
Okay,
Now,
I just have a bad link. So thislittlecorner.com says it's you have to buy this domain. So
hmm,
Do you
did
want
you
to
put
pay? Do you want,
the dashes in there?
no, I didn't put dashes in.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think you need to put the dashes in there to get there. I
okay,
do have
so
to say though, as I have a rule here on this channel,
oh,
and since you guys aren't regulars, I didn't expect you to know it, but here in this little corner, rule number
huh,
one is we don't talk about this little corner of the internet.
oh, I'm
'Cause-
sorry.
yeah, no. I liked your book pitch, and I wasn't going to get in the middle of that, but
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
well,
thought this was more for Bridget the Meaning. I didn't realize. I apologize.
yeah, no. It's
well,
just
huh,
sometimes those conversations tend to get a little bit navel gazy, and they just
Oh,
yeah.
aren't all that interesting. So I try and keep it off. But you're a first time caller, I wasn't gonna jump in there the way I jump in on Mark or something who's here every week.
okay. Well, I'm actually reading through like 11 books right now, so I
Holy
can totally
mackerel!
switch topics.
Well,
I
it,
so
Now,
and
Richard, what do you?
I
that's
should
a
let
lot.
Richard talk a little bit too.
That's a lot of books. I thought I was busy. Oh my goodness! Wow. I think I'm going through 4 books technically, so not that
Well,
many.
I should
But,
correct myself. I checked out 11 books. I'm going
ah,
through
okay.
3 books. I just finished 1 book.
Yeah.
Now I'm working
Well,
on the
yeah.
next one.
Technically, I'm only going through 3 books right now. I'm pretending that I'm reading I think it's called the Religion of the Apostles by Father DeYoung. I'm pretending that I'm reading that.
Is that a big, thick, scary book? Religion of the
No,
Apostles?
it's not. It's just it's a nice like 230. It's
Mhm.
pretty thin. So very accessible. More for popular audiences. So yeah, it's good. But I'm also reading. Do you know Eleanor Stump, Father?
Do not.
She's a Catholic philosopher, and that is a big scary book. It's like 540 pages, and
Is it what's the
it's called
last name
Wandering
again?
in Dark. Stump.
Stump. Okay.
Yeah. It's called Wandering in Darkness, and um it's on it's like attempting to use biblical narratives to answer the problem of suffering. Which is
Mhm.
it's a really fascinating read, and I'm only like 50 pages in, but those first 50 pages are really concentrating on trying to argue for non-propositional knowledge. So it's actually tying in with a lot of stuff. But the idea that trying to bring in narratives to address the problem of suffering gives you a different perspective that you otherwise wouldn't have. Um, so it's definitely an interesting take. But it's a good book. So,
It's
yeah.
interesting. It's interesting. I'm looking at her bibliography on Wikipedia right now, and it seems like she's pretty hardcore in the old school medieval philosophy field. We've got things like
Yep.
absolute simplicity, Cambridge translations of medieval philosophical texts, being and goodness, intellect, will, and the principle of alternative possibilities. Just some real page turners right there. And
Yeah.
but it's interesting that now, are you applying the notion of non-propositional knowledge to what you're seeing in her work, or is that language that she
so
uses?
so here's the language she uses, and it's quite fun. So she I think she probably does use the term non-propositional once or twice, but she distinguishes between what she calls Dominican knowledge and Franciscan knowledge.
Ah,
And
okay.
Dominican, yeah, And so I think you know where it's going. And she's very adamant of saying this is just a typology. Um, and she makes a point of saying that typology goes in the tradition of medieval philosophers. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
the idea is that the Dominicans are very logical, very propositional, they use language a lot. The
Hmm.
Franciscans are, the way she put it is like, Franciscan knowledge is knowledge that can't be reduced to knowledge that something.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Um, so the
that's
idea
amazing.
that I know you, Father Eric, you can't reduce that to I know that you are someone of this identity or something like that. Every time you try and make the reduction, you lose something. Um, and so that's the terminology that she develops.
That is
For the
so
book.
interesting. I mean, I don't know, maybe this whole movement to transcend logical, rational materialism that became dominant in our culture is much older than I give it credit for, and I've only started paying attention to it in the past couple of years. But it seems like we've got an attack on that whole dreary system of thought coming in from multiple angles, right? Like you got
Yes.
the Jordan Peterson angle coming in, you got the John Vervaeke angle coming in, and now we've got this Catholic philosopher at St. Louis University coming in from the Catholic angle, and she's had to invent like different terminology. you know, but
Yeah.
she's
Mhm.
pointing at the same thing.
Yep.
And yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, it's really
everything that
interesting.
rises must converge.
Yes. Oh, that's cool. I've never thought of it that way.
Well,
Um,
that's a title of an anthology of books by the Catholic author Flannery O'Connor. In case you needed more Catholic authors in your library.
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
Awesome.
well,
That's really
she's
interesting.
definitely on my list. Cause
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, that's so I'm reading it for a seminar. It's a seminar just on that book, and we're going through it very slowly. But yeah, it was interesting to see that convergence, and I'm definitely interested to see because she's going to use. I'm not going to remember the whole list, but she's going to use like Samson, Job, Mary of Bethany, and three other biblical stories to try and evoke some sort of worldview change out of her readers. And we'll see how successful she is. I hope she's
Yeah.
successful because it will vindicate a lot of the work we've been doing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, once you started explaining kind of the main thesis of the book, what popped into my head immediately was that proper participation is the antidote. It's like the answer to the problem of evil, right?
Yes, right,
And that's, I
right.
think, where people actually get themselves hung up on the problem of evil is that they're trying to answer that question as if it were one of Euclid's theorems, right?
Right.
Trying to do a geometric proof. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just not how you answer that question. You engage with the world, you engage with God in a meaningful and deliberate way. And it's
Yeah.
through that that you actually receive the answer that you can't put into words.
Yeah. Well, and it was really interesting how she framed her argument initially because she picked up on planting a distinction between a theodicy and a defense, where theodicy is trying to argue that in this actual world, God exists and suffering exists, whereas in a defense, you're simply trying to construct a possible world in which the two could exist, right?
Mm.
And so, and then she ties that in to the notion of having a world view. So
Mm.
she's trying
Hmm.
to like present a worldview where those two things are possible, because she thinks that when you engage on the level of worldview instead of on the level of propositional um, refutation, etc., you get down deeper into the philosophical priors and worldview priors that aren't often addressed in typical discourse. So, um,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, to tie that back in with what you were saying about like participation as the solution to the problem of suffering, like you need to participate in a worldview that assumes the problem of evil is not a problem, and then that's sort of the way that you find out whether or not it's a problem. Like no
Mm.
amount of propositional maneuvering is going to be able to fix that for you.
Yeah.
For most
Yeah.
people.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. That's cool. Somebody should interview her. Bring her in. Bring her in. Bring her into the
Yeah.
conversation.
If she's written books, I'm sure she'd love to be interviewed.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
just need to, you have a website?
Yeah. I
She
just had
ha-
it up. I've
yeah.
closed it down. But it's what is it? Oh goodness, her name just vanished.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Stump.
Yeah, Eleanor.
Eleanor Stump. Eleanor Stump. Yeah.
I'm gonna type that in real quick.
Yeah, she has videos on YouTube. They're all from like a decade ago. Although she does have one video promoting like a conference that happened last year. I think the conference is called like the Future of Christian Thought or something like that. And
Mhm.
so I know we've been talking about these conferences we're holding, and she's definitely the kind of person that you would have in mind to invite as a speaker. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow.
Let's
Wow.
see.
yeah.
Oh,
She's
Mark.
she's
Mark thinks that it should be me and him bringing her in. We could do that. We could do that. You just send emails. A lot of
Um,
things could just happen if you send
yeah.
people emails.
That's it.
See what happens.
I'm trying to find her contact information on the
Yep.
website. I found the website. Let's see
Yeah,
here.
she's getting up there in age, so she might not be so so willing to engage. But you never know how you could get it done. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
she's a Catholic, so I could just flex this thing around and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, for the church, huh? For the church."
Exactly.
I found another website, St. Louis University. Is that where she teaches?
That's where she teaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, her contact
Mhm.
information is on it. I'm gonna copy it. I'll copy this link and send it to you in the private chat.
Private
Yeah,
chat.
there you
Yes.
go.
So that's all I
Yes.
can do, and
Yeah.
probably that way her information is not streamed all over the internet and all
Yeah.
that jazz.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Yeah.
It's right
Yes.
underneath her photo on the left side.
Yes. Let's not dox her email address.
Yeah, yeah. And she's had the phone number too, so that might actually be the
Yeah.
school number.
It's probably the school number. Hopefully,
Yeah.
she's not putting her cell out on the open internet. My goodness. I don't know. Some people can get away with it, though.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hopefully not.
yeah. It looks like a bio page on her college website.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Well,
This
you.
is. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Richard, you got to keep on telling us how that book goes. You see any new insights there? But
I will.
yeah. Are you
Yeah,
are you
I
still
sure will.
going to that Orthodox parish? Last time you were on, you were talking about that,
Yeah.
or was that somebody
It was-
else?
No, that was me. Yeah. The Western Rite Orthodox Parish. Yeah.
Mhm.
I actually I brought a friend there, and my friend went to Catholic high school for a
Mhm.
couple years.
Mhm.
He's a foreign exchange student from Haiti, I think. But
Mhm.
so grew up in a more charismatic background, but ended up going to Catholic school. And so I was interested in what he would think, because it is Western liturgy. But so the I actually have the pamphlet for it here. But so the title is, I can show it to you maybe. Sung Mass with Incense, Rite of Saint Gregory. I don't know what the Latin is. Missa Marialis, Mass of something. But
Why don't you show us the cover of that again?
yeah, it might be backwards. I'm not sure.
It's a little too blocky. Little too blocky.
Oh, that's too bad. Can I do it? Yeah. Anyway, but he was commenting how do you say this? Like how like because you know the Kyrie eleison and the Glory be and all of that, like during a low mass, because we do low masses during the week, those are usually just spoken and recited, right? But
Mhm.
in my church, we have these. I can show you this. We have these very elaborate, medieval Western style melodies that we set them to.
Yes, looks like Mass 8
And
right there.
what would that be?
Kyrie
Well, so
eleison.
so Father Eric, you know a lot more. You know what I hoped you would know, because that melody we sang in the fall,
Mhm,
and so I learned that melody,
mhm.
and it was like my favorite part of the mass was like singing that, and then I come back after Christmas, and they changed the melody,
Mhm.
and so like
At different times of the year, they'll use different mass settings.
Okay,
So
got
yeah,
it.
that's they've got ones that are specified, and then you've got Sundays that are kind of open of what you want to do.
Right.
So I would have to dig a little bit deeper into some old books to figure
Hmm.
out exactly how it works, because a
Okay.
lot of the rules have changed with the liturgical updates after Vatican II. So it's not
Well,
something I necessarily have at my fingertips.
and then of course, like the Western Rite Orthodox guys, like they make a lot of the fact that they've retained a lot of pre-Vatican II things.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd be super
they shoved.
super interested to see
Yeah,
what they were doing. I would probably just
yeah.
nerd right out, uh, nerd out all over the place. Uh,
Yeah, it's funny because I brought my mom. I brought my mom to one, and she grew up Catholic in the Philippines. She was born in. Ooh, I don't want to get this wrong. 78 was
okay.
when she was born, and so she came to the parish, and so one thing she appreciated was that they had pamphlets there that had all of the words for the secret voice. Um,
Hmm.
and she said to the pastor, "It's very nice that I could read what you were saying and not
Hmm.
just be
Hmm.
in silence." But um, the father faces the same direction as the congregation. He doesn't face them, which is
Yeah,
um, the biggest thing, and that was like something my mom was curious about was that. So yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah. It's a pretty
that seems to be the biggest change. I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah. No, there'd be a lot. There'd be a lot. Yeah, I would probably be like a kid in a candy store if I got to go to one. Yeah.
Well, if um if you're coming to Chino and you want to skip Catholic Mass for Western Orthodox Mass, I will
Mm.
happily have you as a visitor. So
Mm. Mm. Now that would require some serious beard stroking for me to figure out. But they haven't posted like a website or anything for me to like get the info on this.
no, not
Like I know
yet.
they've
So
got a date for it, but it's like I don't want to make any plans until I can buy tickets, you know?
yeah,
Do I have
for
to buy
sure.
tickets, or are they just going to say, "Hey, meet us in the park. We'll be there."
They there will be tickets. There will be tickets. I don't
Yeah,
know
so
when.
I'm not going to be
But
making any plans until I see a website like that
yeah,
pointing me in a direction to go.
yes, for sure. Colin Van Donk, uh, get his feeder. Just kidding. Um, thanks for all your work, John. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's these things always happen on weekends, and it's hard for me to get weekends off.
Yeah, for sure.
I signed up to work
Although,
weekends.
although I think like it might start here. Let me. Do you remember what the dates are, Father? Because
Oh, I do
I
not. I do not.
cause
I might be able to find them quickly.
I can also find them very quickly. I will
May
have it in
18th, the
5.
weekend of May 18th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so like I remember most of it being during the week, if I
Really?
remember. Yeah,
Hmm.
the 18th to the 21st.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, so you would get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it
Huh.
ends on Sunday.
Wow. Yeah. Tempting. But
Yeah, probably not,
let's
huh?
see. Well, we'll see. We'll see. 18th to the
Okay.
21st, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any weddings that weekend, so that makes it a little easier.
All right.
School mass graduation. They might want me there for that. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
It's,
we'll see. All right.
I won't make
So
I won't make any decisions right now.
yeah. So do the Catholics, do any parishes use those melodies anymore, or is that
Yes.
not really a
Yes.
thing? They do. Okay. But it must be not. It's not universal, of course.
No. So I know
Okay.
that the Mass 8 that you showed me and that I sang briefly
Mm-hmm.
is we usually do that for big celebrations in our diocese. So like when we
Okay.
have the chrism mass or when we have an ordination or something like that, we'll usually do the Mass 8 setting.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
Got it.
but yeah, now it's all like do whatever Mass setting you want. Absolute freedom. There's no guidance or structure anywhere. And yeah, but now you're getting into territory where I'm going to rant for 3 hours without stopping
Ah,
about how the
Uh,
Catholic Church didn't actually implement Vatican II. They implemented something else.
I do.
Uh, that's that could get me all
So
sorts of attention.
so so ranting on Catholic politics then. All right. Because I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
gonna say, I was gonna say if you're inclined to rant about liturgy, our pastor has a master's in liturgical study.
Yeah, I bet you him and I would get
So,
along pretty well.
yes. Well, so he is a former Lutheran,
Oh, okay. From one
and he
liturgical
can
tradition to another, yeah.
yes, and they so I think he's either the only or one of like 2 or 3 people who are qualified to serve both Western Rite and Eastern Rite services.
He's got bi-ritual faculties. That's what we would call it in the
Yes.
Catholic world if somebody could do the Roman Rite and the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. Call that bi-ritual
Right.
faculties. And the coolest guy in the world had bi-ritual faculties. I'm going to pull up the photo here.
The coolest guy in the world. Wow.
All right, we got Bishop Fulton Sheen, venerable Fulton Sheen, who could represent the Roman Rite,
Mm-hmm.
but he had bi-ritual faculties to also act as I think a Lithuanian
Okay.
Catholic liturgy. So
wow.
he could do them both, and that's just like the coolest stinking photo in the world. Fulton Sheen in a
That
crown, baby.
that is very
Wow.
cool. Did he
Wow.
serve both often?
I don't know how often he would have actually been able to use his bi-ritual faculties. I don't know. I don't know. He was busy,
Yeah.
you know, being on TV and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So
Got it.
yeah, hard for me to tell from 60 years later how often he would
Yeah.
have been able to do that.
Yeah. For sure. Because I
Uh,
don't think. Yeah, I don't think Father John, my pastor, has ever served Eastern Rite, even though he's qualified to.
mhm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, so I guess another Catholic update I have, Father Eric, is I've had a copy of the Liturgy of the Hours just lying sadly on my desk because I'm too lazy to figure out how it works.
Yeah, it's a little mysterious. Do you know which edition you would have?
No, I do not. I
Um,
unfortunately I'm
is
away
it
from it at the moment.
is it all in Latin or all in English?
It's all in English, I think.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it's like the way priests end up learning it is that we go to seminary and then we're given the page numbers to do morning and evening prayer every day and a little bit of instruction on how it works, but basically you just like you do it and then you start to understand how it works, and then guys get ordained and they put their breviaries away and just use their phones for the rest of their life.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering. I was wondering because
But I am
I
not a
do.
phone guy.
Okay,
I
I
have
see.
to, because when I do the liturgy of the hours on any screens, like I'm not paying proper attention to it.
Mm,
Oh.
yeah,
I'm just so distracted when it's just on a screen. But when I got
yeah.
the paper, I actually stand a chance of paying attention.
Aw.
Because I actually did. I used the phone. I wanted to pray, but I didn't know what to pray. And so
Hmm.
I was like, I wonder if I can find the daily prayer online.
Hmm.
And so I just Googled it. And so I prayed the Liturgy of the Hours on Thursday on a Baptist campus inside of a Baptist prayer chapel.
It's
And but
mostly the
they,
Psalms.
yeah, mostly, which I was surprised by. But yeah, it is. So it's a lot of songs. It's a lot of songs.
So if you want to get serious about the Liturgy of the Hours, what you're going to need is one of these St. Joseph guides. Um, so you can just
Okay.
like you can put in guide for the Liturgy of the Hours. This one's for 2022, so it's not going to
Okay.
do you as much good. But it
Right.
would have. Do you have a 1 volume or a 4 volume?
I have a 4 volume.
Yeah. So let's see if we can. Yeah, Liturgy of the Hours guide for 2023. Here at stjudeshop.com. Um, that also says 2022, but hopefully, but it says 2023 here. So buyer beware. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and this will like walk you through how to do it properly. And if you wanted to get real fancy, you could get what the priests have, which is one of these ordos by Paulist
Okay.
Press. Um, but these are a little bit. They're like written in code, and you have to know what the code is, right? So let's look up February 6th. Let's take a look at tomorrow. What are we doing? Uh, yeah. So there's the code for February 6th.
Oh my.
Memorial, got to wear red. Votive and ritual mass, code 2, Psalter week 1, seasonal weekday, all that. So anyway, that might be a little bit of a steep slope there, trying to get
Yeah.
in on that. But the St.
Well,
Joseph
wait,
guides
are
are
there?
usually a lot clearer.
Okay. So I guess there aren't any good online guides then for it.
I'll look around.
Because I've had a few, and I wasn't trying very hard because I was pretty busy. What a great excuse, right? I was busy. But c'est la vie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they publish an online guide.
There might be an app. I
There,
know there was. I had one app for a while that had liturgy in it, more like prayers and readings and stuff
Mhm.
from morning, afternoon, morning, mid morning, afternoon, and evening. And I apologize, I don't remember the name of the app, but it was kind of. I think it was more of an Anglican kind of thing. But
Mhm.
Right.
it so you might be able to find something through the app stores or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I looked online, I think it might have been Word on Fire. Let me try and find
Oh
it.
yeah.
But I was
Yeah, Word on
surprised.
Fire's got that new publication. It's morning, evening, and night prayer without any flipping, and it's a monthly subscription.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah, maybe it wasn't. Here it is. Divineoffice.org.
I found this article on alatea.org, Beginner's Guide to the Liturgy of the Hours. So maybe you'd find that helpful. Um,
Yeah.
but this is only for the Christian prayer, the one volume Christian prayer
What is
version.
it?
Really, what you need to do is you just need to make friends with a
Okay.
Catholic who's willing to teach you how to do it every day for a couple of weeks until you get the hang of it.
Yeah, I need to bully my Catholic friend into doing that because he made me check out the book and then just threw me off the deep end. Because that's actually how I got the book, was because of a Catholic friend.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's just we 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 don't see each other that often, so it's kind of hard to do. But you know, something interesting he was telling me, Father Eric, is that the Catholics affirm that all all Orthodox Christians are I don't know what the terminology is, but like they're saved, they're real Christians, they're whatever.
So I think the best way to explain that would be to say that we would recognize all of the Orthodox sacraments.
Okay,
So,
so they're
and
effective.
there's a fair amount that goes both ways on that.
Okay.
So I believe the Orthodox practice is that if a Catholic priest uh, went into an Orthodox church, they would only be chrismated again, but they would not be ordained again.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
and then we would recognize uh, the same thing, basically coming the other way. That if an Orthodox priest wanted to become Catholic, um, we would not get them ordained again, which is not the way we would treat, say, an Anglican, a Lutheran,
Right.
or any of the Protestant denominations. They would usually have to be
Okay.
ordained again. Um, so yeah, that's I think probably the easiest way to explain it.
Got it. So I was baptized Catholic, and I'm pretty sure I have my certificate. So
Okay.
would I need to get baptized again in the Eastern Orthodox Church? Do you know?
I don't believe so, but you'd have to actually ask
Okay.
an Eastern Orthodox priest
Yeah.
about that. But I think
Right.
as long as
Of
you are
course.
baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they would do that. They are a little more free with chrismation. They seem to
Okay.
do that more than I think Catholics would the other way. So we would recognize what the Orthodox call chrismation as being the same as our confirmation. Um, but it seems like the Orthodox tend to do that more with their converts. So,
Hmm.
but then again, like you're talking to a guy who's not an
Yeah.
expert, can't give you a
Yeah.
proper answer on that.
Mm,
So,
yeah, for sure. Yep, I should just ask my pastor. So
yeah, just
there
ask
you
your
go.
pastor.
Yeah.
That's the answer to almost everything.
Fair enough. Do you do you ever refer people to therapy in pastoral matters?
I will. If
You
I
will.
don't know, a lot of times by the time they come into talking to me, they're already in therapy, and I'm happy
Yeah, for
to
sure.
just let them go. I do want to be careful who I'm referring them to.
Okay.
Want to find somebody who's solid. I know of a few solid Catholic uh, therapists in town that I could trust and can reliably do it. But when people come talk to me, I'm going to start with the spiritual thing, which is
For sure.
kind of where I'm at. And yeah, so I'm not against it. It's just usually um, by the time they get to me, it's usually something they've already made up their mind on. Uh,
Okay. Got it.
yeah, so I don't have any trouble doing that. What I have to be careful of
Got
is
it.
just not trying to give people therapy. And that's an easy thing to fall into, especially when
Yes.
you've listened to hours of Jordan Peterson lectures and think you're an expert. Uh,
Oh no. Yeah, that control would be something. Oh my goodness. I never thought of that. Yeah.
so anyway, I try and stay in my lane. But it's not like we've got a concrete dividing line. You could just kind of drift, there. They're kind of blurry there.
An
Well, yeah,
interesting,
my. Sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
just a quick note on that therapy thing. There was a Christian psychotherapist named Paul Tournier, who I think he was Swiss, but he wrote a benchmark book in the industry called The Meaning of Persons, and he talks about the whole person and how everything bleeds into each other. So the spiritual part of the man, as well as the psychological part, as well as the heart part, and the biological stuff. Everything's like connected, and psychology is just a sliver of what the whole person is, and
Mhm,
and so he wrestles with
Mhm.
that, and he has written over 40 books.
mhm,
So he's an interesting guy.
mhm,
Um, I was referred to him in
Mhm.
one of my, like, I'm looking for new books. What can you suggest? And I read a lot of psychology stuff, not heavy academic stuff, but more for the regular people stuff.
mhm.
But Paul
Yeah.
Tournier, yeah. So he might be interesting for you to read at some point. And I apologize for interrupting you, Richard.
Thanks, Mark.
No,
Thanks.
no, I interrupted you. Sure. No problem.
Yeah. Mark says that priests are better than therapists. But while that may be true, I think going through the sometimes tedious work of working out people's, let's say, trigger to a stimulus and how to change a new response, there are certain things that I'm happy to delegate to a therapist who's got more expertise in that area.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
now Charlie says that priests are balder than therapists. Is that fair? And I happen to know at least one therapist who's as bald as a cucumber.
Aw.
There you go. There
So
you go.
I don't actually think that. And my plenty of priests who have quite a lot of foliage up here.
There's no correlation, as much as we would like to think.
All right, Mark. Here's my take, Mark. Here's my take. All right. I point people to the ends and the supernatural means to get to those ends, and the therapist can be helpful in helping somebody with the natural means to an end, which support and complement the supernatural means. So anyway, that's what I think.
That's really well worded.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so yeah. But that's so funny how far Mark has gone into enchantment that he would wait. Mark, so do you think that priests can entirely replace therapists? Or am I
This is something
misreading it
interesting.
there?
Catherine Wilson. I'm sure you guys have probably run into her. She hosted the Thunder Bay event. She's both a faithful Christian and a practicing therapist. She says that if the churches were doing their jobs properly, she would be out of a job. That we would be supporting people in such a way that they did not that they would not be needed. And Mark says we didn't have therapists in the past, so that has to be true. Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I've got to do ministry where I'm at, and like I said, by the time a lot of people come to me, they're already in therapy for whatever they're dealing with. So I'm just going to let them do that, and hopefully the therapist doesn't send them in a wrong direction and can at least be something helpful. And this wouldn't be a Sunday night live stream without promoting one of the greatest YouTube channels of all time, Navigating Patterns. And yes, Catherine appeared on Mark's channel, Navigating Patterns, and Mark will probably put a link to that video below with just a little bit of prompting. Catherine's great. You should all listen to her. She's fabulous Christian disciple.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. I've never thought about it that way. You can almost think about psychology as a side effect of modernity, and it's almost like necessary for now as we pass through modernity. Like I've been thinking about more stuff in this way, that things that we would rather not have are necessary for a time because of the peculiar ways that we fall as humans. Maybe so bold, I've been tempted to think of women's ordination in that way. It's almost like we have to do that because we don't understand how to think about the gender roles in a way that makes sex exclusivity in church offices exclusive. So yeah, it's a pattern that I've been seeing more and more. Speaking of navigating patterns. The pattern of having to bear with something sub-ideal because of circumstance. So. So I guess
all right. Somebody's going to have to fill me in on what trepanning is.
I have no idea what that is.
But this fellow said, "Let's go back to the good old days of trepanning for demons in the skull."
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, that sounds like a more brutal medieval weirdness.
Yeah.
But for demons, I recommend safe and effective holy water.
All right.
Available at your nearest Catholic church.
Bro, I did not know that this. So like last week, no, 2 weeks ago, during announcements after mass, uh, our father like just went into like, if you need a bottle for holy water, you can pick one up. If you already have one, you need to refill it. If you already have one, you should put it in your icon corner. And it's a holy water is a thing that you possess in a bottle and keep in your house and wash yourself with daily. I had no idea. So
Yeah, go ahead. Get the holy water. Speaking of getting the holy water, Mark is here.
Hey, Mark.
You need your holy water.
So-
Trepanning is where they cut the skull open. They cut your skull open. They did it. The Neanderthals did it.
Yeah, you
Oh.
drill holes in your skull.
Yeah, but they don't
So-
know all
so-
the things they used it for. Like they have no idea. Like they think that it was just to release demons from the skull, but they don't actually know. And I'm sure that was part of it. But there seemed to be, like, we do it now. We drill holes in the head to relieve pressure all the time. Like they've actually brought back taking pieces of the skull out in certain circumstances. So
Right.
that was
My
I was
first
in the
pastor-
hospital.
Yeah, my first pastor had a brain bleed, and they had to knock a hole right there. And so he said,
Yeah.
if somebody ever stuck a pencil in there real hard, it could kill them. But so anyway, I just refrained from sticking pencils into him, and we got along. We got along famously, you know.
It's amazing how not sticking pencils into people's heads, can really make sure your relationship stays good. It's for the fun. And yeah, it looks like actually, they have found evidence that some of the trepanning wasn't done due to evil spirits, but was in fact done to serve as some of the same medical problems that we now know about
Right.
through science, the magical science.
Right.
Science has lots of good insights. Like just recently, in the past 2 years, they discovered that in fact, if you're in love and then somebody breaks your heart, that your heart does in fact get damaged.
Really?
And being in love can repair your heart. So science has validated something that literally every human has known since literally the beginning of time. So yay, science.
I
Pretty
didn't figure
soon
that
we'll catch
out.
up
I
to
didn't
something
figure
else
that out,
everybody already knew.
Mark. I didn't figure that out until the 6th grade Christmas dance.
Aw.
Well, okay.
But I got shot down. Oh, it was painful.
Aw.
You were 11.
Aw.
So you were 11 years old, and science is has the equivalent knowledge of an 11-year-old. Yay, science! Big fan.
Boy.
Just saying. But it's too much. There's too much emphasis on that, and treating knowledge as material. Everybody wants to have it. They want to have They want to internalize things, and I'm like, can you internalize? Like the only thing you internalize is food and air. I think everything else you don't internalize. I think everything else kind of stays outside of you. But this consumption based sort of, it's a strange world. Nice.
Yeah, Charlie, I love you, man. Let's not go there, huh?
Oh, let's not go there. Okay.
Attacking the priestly
Priestly
vocation
celibacy.
there.
Stick
Yeah.
to Lutherans.
Why is it the Lutherans' fault?
Oh, it's Charlie. Charlie's a Lutheran.
Oh, do they allow their priests to get married? Is that?
Oh yeah. That
Mhm.
Martin Luther married a nun.
Yeah, like
Yep.
right after.
Okay.
For real.
I didn't know that. This
Wild
Luther guy,
times in Germany, man.
he's like the modern philosophers. The more I learn, the more terrified I am, and curious about how anybody took any of these people seriously ever and listened to anything.
Because
they
Martin
said.
Luther was an absolute riot. That dude was funny as heck. Like you probably would have liked him if you'd actually met him.
Probably.
So
Maybe.
So he's like Trump. You're saying? He sounds like Trump now.
He's probably smarter than, or what, more articulate than Trump. I've
There
got to
you
be
go.
careful here because Mark is there and he's going to shred me if I'm imprecise in my language.
Probably not. But I don't have to. I've got a cudgel now. I can just pull out the cudgel anytime. It's like not a,
Oh,
I
wow.
got something in your place. It's not a big deal now. No, we've been noticing a lot of people with the internalizing theme, right? They want to have things. They want to get things. They want to, Carlos, I have a video on that on navigating patterns, training versus education. It's a good video. You can learn all about it.
It seems to me that the teachers, for the most part, just kind of set the stage and are able to kick out bad actors.
Yeah.
That's what I observed about seminary, right? Like they can
Right.
kind of set the
Right.
rule of life. They can figure out what teachers they're going to bring in and what they're going to enforce in terms of policy and kick out bad actors. But at a certain point, like I had to be responsible for my own formation.
Yeah. Well, and you should be, and your parents should be responsible for
Yeah,
making you responsible for your own formation. And the bigger issue for me is, it looks from the data that I read. Someday I'm going to find that stupid article that basically the sooner you put a child into a structured learning environment, the worse for the child. So you should keep them away from that stuff as much as possible, and then you should put them in an environment where there's lots of recess, gym, art, music, and religion teaching, because those teach what in Vervaeke world would be participatory knowledge and not propositional knowledge.
Well, so and a big one I'm picking up. I'm taking it's a class called Adolescence and Emerging Adulthood, and the prof is really big on taking cultural perspectives in a good way, I think. But he's pointing out that because we group our kids in same age cohorts, you delay maturation drastically because they're not interacting with more mature peers and they're not learning how to teach the younger kids to get in shape at all. And
what you're saying is that we need to go back to one-room schoolhouses.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Montessori schools don't do that. So there are schools like that.
Well, so I mean, yes, the Montessori school I went to still they widened the range a bit to like 3 grades in one classroom, but I still feel like you can widen it more, and you just get
I don't
more
know.
benefits.
3 years difference is a lot when you're young. I don't.
That's true.
I mean, you're getting too far away at some point, right? Because maturation happens quickly when you're young and slower as you get older.
Well, yeah. So do you know that study? I think it's a study where they noticed that like 80% of National Hockey League players were born in like January.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I saw that.
yeah.
Huh.
So the reason is that the time where you enroll your kids in like camps and stuff when they're like 5 is in January. And so because of that, all of the kids who are about to turn 6 are the ones that get in. And then all of the younger ones get screened out because they're less mature, right? And so that's why they're all born in January, is because you get this snowball effect of they get all of the club resources and they get under the good varsity teams and all of that.
Right.
Just so, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the problem, that people don't understand how reality works, right? Reality is filters. That's what it is. And once you realize that everything's a filter, then your whole view of the world changes. What are you filtering out for? Because the first thing that happens is you filter stuff out. Because that's how our brains work. I mean, Vervaeke makes this point all the time, actually, right? We filter out 99.9% of everything. That's how we're able to function, right? And so that pattern recurs, navigating the pattern, right? Like it recurs everywhere, and we have to do that. We don't know. And this is why the critiques of that are invalid. It's like, oh, we should change it. We can't change it. We can change the filter, but that may make the results worse because we came at the filter for a reason, and we don't understand that reason because it's distributed cognition through time. And now you're at the Chesterson's fence problem. You're changing something without understanding why it got there and how it got there and what it's for. And that's the problem, right? And we're all complaining about things that are in the world that aren't optional.
Did we change Chesterton's fence to Bonsai's brain surgery?
Yes.
Don't pull on that. You don't know what it's connected to. No, I don't want to kick G.K. Chesterton out. I need to watch that movie again.
Bonsai?
Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension.
That was awesome. I love the ending.
I haven't seen it in a while. I should watch it again myself.
No
so good.
spoilers. I haven't seen it before. So.
Well, for those who haven't seen it,
Mike, what's that?
What you can prepare yourself for is imagine being a space alien who knows nothing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and drops into the 3rd Avengers movie.
That's pretty accurate.
Right? Because you just coming in at the middle of the story and you're expected to already know all these things and you just kind of have to pick it up as you go along. So it's actually a lot of fun to just be sitting there like, oh, he's got comic book. Oh, he's a he's also a musician. Okay, all right, here we go.
It's really based on a comic book, isn't that right? Or am I mistaken?
I don't think it's actually. I thought it was an original screenplay. But they were definitely looking to things like comic books and how they have, especially over time, these like snowballing storylines and like, fingers going out in different directions and all these different threads all over the place.
I remember there's someone saying there was a lot of Easter eggs in the movie for people who knew what was going on. There was like an object in a room that like doesn't fit in the room, and you're like, why is it there? And it's just like, don't ask me now. And then everybody just moves on. And so there was a lot of little things like that. I could have misunderstood or misremembered it though.
Yeah. I think it was like references to pieces of media that have never ever exited the director's mind, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a fun movie.
All right.
My buddy Christian showed it to me.
I'm gonna go grab dinner, guys.
Go get some dinner, Richard. You're looking peaky.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you and my mother. All right,
Nice meeting
goodbye.
you, Richard. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
You too, Bowie.
Take care.
Goodbye.
All righty.
And the popular duo returns together.
That's right. Bald men solving the meaning crisis. You, me, Vanderklay, we're getting it done.
We're getting it done. The rest of them, they're not doing anything.
One soul at a time. Yeah.
Maybe chocolate would help solve the meaning crisis.
No. Chocolate is solipsistic. It helps you solve the ego crisis, which creates the meaning crisis.
I was just being facetious.
Maybe encountering the beauty of an excellent piece of chocolate would actually lead you out of yourself into the contemplation of higher realities.
No.
He says with a giant bag of peanut M&Ms behind him.
I had some earlier, yeah. That's how I know it doesn't fix the meaning crisis. I ate a bunch of M&Ms. Still meaning crisis right there.
Okay.
Had some Reese's peanut butter cups earlier. Still meaning crisis.
Yeah.
I have to experiment with all the things. So
yeah, yes, being scientific. Yeah.
Yeah. Very scientific. Science will definitely get us out of the meaning crisis because that's what got us in. It's all good.
Yeah.
More therapy. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Chocolate insulin crisis.
Yeah. They have a new Hershey's chocolate has a 0. Basically has no sugar in it. It tastes a little different, but it's actually decent. So I've been eating those.
Are they? Has artificial sweetener in it, or
Probably, yeah. Probably.
get
Which,
the?
it's good and bad at the same time. So it's like,
Now, when they came up with sucralose, commonly marketed as Splenda, I believe that they were trying to develop a new kind of pesticide,
oh,
and they came up with sucralose. And the reason that it's 0 calorie is that your body doesn't recognize it as food.
ah,
So that's kind of the
Allegedly.
frightening. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe science could tell us more about why it doesn't get digested, but or what
No.
happens.
Science is lying about all that. So yeah, that's the problem. They have a bunch of theories. Whenever you go inside the body and you hear them make a statement, they're wrong because they don't have tools for seeing. They just make it all up.
mm,
All right, all internal medicine now made up. You learned it here first, folks.
yep.
Pretty much.
But it's like, yeah, this thing's so stinking complicated. Like you can't take it apart and figure it out how it works.
Mm,
It's not like a transistor radio.
mm.
So, yeah, you're probably right. Just another thing for me not to have faith in.
There you go. Yeah, you've got faith in all the right things. You're fine.
I think asks, is Splenda as bad as aspartame? And I'm just going to go ahead and say that they're all bad, and you should just drink water
Yes.
and coffee. Coffee's fine too.
No. Coffee's evil.
See, Mark hasn't been able to convince me on that.
Coffee's no good.
How about
it's a
tea? Is
drug.
tea okay?
I drink tea all the time. Herbal tea is great.
Okay.
Little Earl Grey every once in a while is fine. I like that. You already disbelieve all other gods. Why not one more?
Mm.
But they don't. That's the problem. They adopt new gods as required to fit their feelings in the moment.
Mm.
That's the new theme. Feelings in the moment. And if my feelings were hurt, it must be your fault because you were there.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable, rational,
And logical, but often
logical.
wrong.
So I have a question for you guys. What have you been learning this week?
Mark, you go first.
Oh, okay. I'll go first. What I have been learning this week is the depth and breadth of people's insanity around how they process their worldviews. That's what I've been learning all week. And I have also been very slowly learning, because I keep forgetting to read this, about this from Christendom to apostolic mission stuff, which is quite interesting because it's meaning crisis in Christian terms. So it's good stuff.
Really interesting.
That was published by University of Mary Press. There isn't actually like a author's name on it, so it can be a little hard to find. But it's just a little, like it's a book, but it's just a little snack. It's not.
It's only a
not
few hundred pages or something like that.
It might be 130.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's more like a pamphlet.
Ah.
But it's like straight to the point. Talks about all this worldview, imaginal, unconscious assumptions, what you're able to see kind of business.
Cool.
Meaning crisis stuff. And I also learned about this this professor woman here that we need to talk to, who has a YouTube video from April that was recorded in April of last year there. So yeah, we got to check her out. That's going to be very interesting. 37 minutes, and it's on mourning. At least that one of her slides is on the problem of mourning, which is Vervaeke's perennial problem of grief. So that should be interesting tie-in there.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens, because this happened to Vervaeke in in the talk with the Orthodox bishop, right? He's like, well, that's a problem. The bishop's like, yeah, but that was solved already by this guy. Verbeke was like, really? It's like, yes.
Oh. I gotta
There
watch
was
that.
a
It's in my YouTube watch list. I'm like, I gotta watch that video.
really good. It's really, really good. Yeah,
Oh.
he pretty much digs a 6-foot hole, throws Neoplatonism in it, throws all the dirt over it, gives it a nice
Wow.
little headstone. It's quite
Huh.
good.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, but it's interesting when the secularists find out that the religious people actually do know about this and have been talking about this all along, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh wow, this is so enlightening." It's like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh
Interesting.
no, I have to get that link too.
I'm finding it. I got it.
All right, thank you. You're the best.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
this
your
one,
channel.
Charlie.
I think you know this. It's a good talk.
90% sir. It's got a big bearded guy. So that should be an Orthodox bishop.
Yep.
It's
And
required.
it's like Monday or something. It came out. It's
Yeah.
6 days old or 5 days old, something like that.
Yeah. What have I learned this week? I've learned how much of a pain in the butt it is to come back from vacation.
Oh.
Like, I enjoyed my vacation, had a great time. Would recommend. But it's like, oh yeah, you leave all that work and then it's there for you when you get back. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, how little sleep I could function on if I had to. I went to a marriage retreat and heard confessions from about 9:45 to 10:15 last night because that's when it happened in their schedule. And then I woke up early for the early mass, 7 a.m. confessions. So it's just sort of like, and then had a busy day today. We had our second grade reconciliation retreat, teaching the second graders how to confess their sins. Because by the time you're a second grader, it's now you're not a child, you're not a toddler anymore. You now have some agency, and which means you've sinned. Oh, but that went really well. My station was showing the kids the confessional and the different how to behave, orienting them, how to navigate a confessional. You
Wow, that's
you
cool.
can kneel here if you want to go behind the screen, and you can sit here if you want to talk face to face. Now, how many of you want to go behind the screen? Yeah, consistently 3/4 of you. That's actually consistent with the way the adults here do it too.
Oh,
3/4 of everybody goes behind the screen, and only 1/4 of people come face to face about.
Oh, I didn't know you could go face to face. That's interesting. Whenever you see it on TV, it's always a screen.
yeah.
And the screen is frankly cooler, and I like going behind the screen when I go, if it's an option. Although oftentimes I'm making appointments with my friends to go because I don't want to take up regularly scheduled confession time from somebody else. Because anyway, yeah, I'm a fan of the screens. They definitely serve their purpose. It's like there's this really paradoxical thing that can happen in liturgy, where if you get farther away from something, you participate in it better. And I think that's what the odd orient of worship, having the priest facing towards the altar, the same direction as the people during the liturgy, did for the majority of church history up until the mid 1960s. You put a barrier up in there, and that somehow invites different sort of participation. And I think the same thing happens when you go to confession behind the screen. You don't have as much of an impression that you're confessing your sins to Father Eric, but directly to God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things we sort of identified, actually, I think it was today. One of the problems people have is that they'll point at specific behaviors, right, instead of focusing on the spirit behind the behaviors, right? So that's sort of like treating it like an idol instead of an icon.
Give us an example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, so a lot of people were well, there's a big dust up on the Awakening server, so they
And you're in
opened
the
a
middle
can
of
of
it, right?
worms. Oh, of course, they opened a can of worms that they didn't understand, and now they riled up basically a bunch of probably, not mentally stable people. Let me put it that way. And so people are just going completely bonkers, left, right, and center, and one of the things they say is, like, you did this, right? And or this person did that. And it's like, all right, well, when did this happen? Right? Because if you're going to change something, you got to know what it is that you're changing. And then they don't have that thing. It's not there. It's like, all right, so why are you putting it words or things that were said or actions that occurred when you don't have evidence that actually happened, right? And it's because they're
if
trying.
it's written down on Discord, you should be able to be like, you said that here.
Right, and they
But with
can't.
the live chat, it might be a little harder to nail down. So
Well, but they can't. They are saying it's in text chat and it's not there, and it's and then so they're trying to materialize something that they felt, right, and say, I felt this because you're here, right? They're trying to make it material so they can point to it, say that's wrong, right? But it's not there. And I think when you focus on that, when you try to, instead of owning up to, oh no, I felt this, it's like, oh well, whatever. You may have felt that, and somebody may have been in the room with you when you felt that, but that doesn't mean that they're responsible for your feelings because they're yours. As it turns out, like, there's a difference between the things inside you and the things outside of you. All right. And so I think that people get caught up and they like look for an idol to blame, right? Which is scapegoating, right? When you're like, fair enough. When in fact, it's them, right? And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to externalize that. In psychology, that would be called projection, right? And then make it concrete, right? Idolize it, and then point to that as the source of their internal problem, something external to them.
And then destroy it.
And then destroy it, right? Or destroy the person that they're actually upset at by using that idol. Saying, oh, you created this idol, and this is the idol that has me trapped or is causing my emotions, and therefore, right? And that's the pattern. And it's a very, it's a very old and common pattern, but that's the sort of thing that people are doing. And they're going the other way with it too. So just had a discussion with somebody who kept saying, oh no, internalizing the sage. I'm like, you don't internalize a dead person. Like that's called necromancy. Don't do that.
Ooh,
and
ouch.
Well, look, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not, I didn't make up the term.
That's why Jesus has to have risen from the dead, right? So you wouldn't be internalizing a dead person.
I don't know. Well, and asking what would Jesus do isn't internalizing the dead person. It's pointing your attention outside of yourself and contrasting your behavior with behavior of something that isn't your ego. And so I think there's a point, right, at which internalizing the sage or something like it, although I think, again, that's necromancy and bad, right? But saying, what would Jesus do, points you away from your own ego, right? It just gives you contrast and says, well, what would somebody who isn't you do? And well, if we're gonna say isn't you, why don't we just use the perfect human form, right? That makes sense, right? What would that person do? Well, that's a good question, right? Because then it gets you out of your solipsism and allows you to contrast your behavior with their behavior, at least in your head, and that's better than not contrasting your behavior, at all. And so it's an improvement. But characterizing that, is like Vervaeke does and others, is internalizing the sage, I think is dangerous because, and people are talking like this now, like, well, I internalize knowledge. It's like, so when you take the knowledge into yourself, is it no longer available for other people?
Well, knowledge is spoken of as a common good, in that it's not diminished by being shared.
Right, but it's not a good. That's the first problem, and it's not common because knowledge is about how you're conforming to the world. Knowledge isn't It isn't apart from you, and it isn't apart from the world. It's the relationship between the two, and it's not material. But when you say you can internalize something, you're speaking of it as though it is material.
I misspoke. It's truth that's a common good.
Truth is a common good. Maybe I'd have to think about
It's
that.
not diminished. It's basically it's not diminished by being shared. It can be. So you could think of like
I see.
another
Yeah,
example of a common good is like a properly ordered and peaceful society,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And it's like, within certain limits, you could just add more people to that. And as long as everybody is pointing at the same ideals, they're all submitting to the same authorities and same spirits, if you will, same patterns, then that peaceful, harmonious ordering of society is not diminished by more people partaking in it. In fact, it may actually grow.
Right.
And become more able to bring people in there.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And it's the within limits that everyone's arguing about. They don't realize
because that is an important question. Where are those limits? How many people can we add to our project, our community, and at what point? And like, how do we determine if somebody's actually going to contribute thoughtfully, or if they're just going to be a parasite?
Yeah, and that idolization is the problem, right? You crystallize something and then you identify it with something. You say, "Oh, the current school system corrupts our children," right?
Well, yes, but
and then you idolize the school children, right? When in fact, what's corrupting the children is a change in school policy, not the school, because the school isn't bad in and of itself. And then what ends up happening is, because you've idolized it, you try to smash that idol, but then you destroy all the goodness too. And you don't, and you're not telling people, for example, that I'm just making different trade-offs, right? I'm drawing the line in a different place. I'm not actually telling you don't have to draw the line. It's like the postmodern trick, right? It's postmodern power, right? But what they're giving you is, they're not saying there's a way out of it. They're just saying you should have the power, not the person or people that have the power now. It's like, I don't know. That seems like a bad plan. Like, if this is a bad thing, maybe we should stop doing it.
Yeah. You made a big jump there from the public schools to postmodernism.
Well, no, I mean, that's what James Lindsay does in the WTF is SEL video. He talks about the.
Okay, that's what you had in mind. Okay.
Well, I watched James Lindsay recently, and it's all over the place. He did a good video called "The Negation of Reality." That's really, really good. That's like top tier stuff. The first 35 minutes is tough to get through, but after that, it's like really, really good.
Yeah. Shows where we're at, where we have to defend reality. Like, I don't know. I feel like reality's pretty real. It pushes back on me when I'm being ridiculous.
But that's what people are upset about. They're upset about constraint, and they don't want the pushback. And so they're living in their heads, and then they're getting angry and resentful. And because they're trying to internalize everything and know stuff, and so, for the purpose of controlling it, then they get wrapped up in that process, and they make an idol out of freaking everything. They're just idol this and idol that, and we got to get rid of capitalism, as though it's some kind of an object that you can throw away or destroy or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. It's a concept and a principle, and it's not going away no matter what you do, because it's a pattern in the world, and you can't just get rid of patterns in the world, because that's the constraint of reality. And they don't want the constraint. They're just trying to break free of all constraints. They want to be free from all constraints. And
Mark,
that's where they get upset.
What does it mean when we say that God is infinite? What it means when we say that God is infinite is that he is not relegated to any particular mode of being, but that he has the fullness of all possible power, all possible potential there, that he's not constrained by anything except his own will.
Right.
And so when these postmodernists are trying to break free of all constraint, they're trying to replace God, basically.
Yep. Right.
That's
No,
interesting.
exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
And James Lindsay makes the case in the negation of reality too, that effectively that's what happens with the postmodern ethos, is that it leads to Gnosticism through solipsism because of the constraints we have are evil, and therefore that God that you're talking about, Father Eric, he's the bad God, and then behind him is really the good God, and we could break free to that. It's like, what? Yeah, that's Gnosticism in it. But I think the thing that Lindsay doesn't necessarily recognize, because he keeps drawing this through line through history, is that a simple system like that, where you're relying on an existing framework, for example, through distributed cognition through a couple thousand years, we'll throw out all the hypotheticals here, right? That system is arrivable by anybody with even a slightly below average IQ. And so it's not so much that Hegel is a genius, or that people who discover Hegel are geniuses because they had the same idea and then found Hegel. It's that they had the same idea because any idiot can come up with it, and then they find Hegel and they go, "Oh, that guy! Everybody thinks that guy was smart, and so maybe I'm smart too, or maybe I'm smarter than him because I came up with it by myself." And so that's how I think. With Lindsay, it's like you can trace the through line through history. I'm like, nah, it's an emergent pattern. It just keeps coming up.
It's a seductive worldview.
It's a very seductive worldview because you came up with it by yourself, it seems, right? And all these other smart people in the past, whether it's Karl Marx or Hegel or whomever else, they also got there. So there's got to be something to it. Look at all these smart guys. This is why I keep saying they're not smart. Sorry, they're actually not all that bright. They may have been fairly articulate, but like Karl Marx doesn't even make any sense. You read some of his quotes and you're like, what? Like who would write such craziness? And it
now,
is.
Mark,
it
is the definition of Gnosticism that you're using this idea that the appearances and the common stories are all tricks, and basically we have to transcend the tricks via secret knowledge? Is that the pattern you're looking at?
That's what it leads to. I think the pattern is you become too egoic somehow. Doesn't matter. There's been lots of paths to that, which you fall into the individualism, which grabs the materialism, the objectivism in it, right? I have a video on that because those three things go together somehow. I don't know how, but they go together pretty reliably. And then that leads to the rest of this. Like the inevitable conclusion of that line of thought, and this is part of Lindsay's point, is that the reason why there's constraint is because there's this God and he's constraining you, and you just have to break free through the hidden knowledge. Right, and then once you get the hidden knowledge, you'll be free of all this craziness.
Well, I, for one, am happy for my constraints. I'm happy that God has put me in the constraint of time so that my whole life doesn't happen to me all at once, because I think that would be very confusing. I'm happy that I've got the constraint of space, so I don't have to try and be everywhere at all times. I can just be here. Yeah, and our span is 70 years, or 80 for those who are strong, and I think that's going to be long enough. And speaking of things that are long enough, I'm starting to get pretty close to my bedtime here. So we'll go ahead and wrap this live stream up. Valerie, it was a delight to have you on. And I wish you all the best in your anthology project on the Bridges of Meaning Writings Club.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on, and I'm thrilled I was able to join. I'll try to keep an eye out for when you're doing more of these, and maybe I'll have some interesting books that I can share.
Every Sunday night at 7:30 Central.
Oh, really?
I try. Yeah, I'm all about regularity. You know, we
Okay.
go for 2 hours.
Okay, cool. I'll
The
stick
YouTube
it in my
liturgy.
calendar. I'll put it
YouTube
in my
liturgy,
calendar and
our
see if I can slot it in.
Sun,
Sometimes I'm busy, but sometimes I'm not. So
whoever shows up, I'm happy to talk as long as I'm not sitting here talking to myself. I don't have Jacob's patience to sit on an empty live stream.
Aw.
So
Well, thank you very much, Father Eric, and always good to see you, Mark.
yeah.
And I wish you both a good week and a good evening.
Good night. God bless you all.
Good night.
God bless.